I've really been enjoying getting to know how to use social media in my science classroom for the first time. I've immediately found that there are three big things that it's really helped me bring together and bring out in my classroom. One of them is just the way that it speeds up our communication, and the way that it helps me with assessing the student understanding has really grown, and it also really brings a new levels of enrichment to the classroom environment. So communication, it really helps the kids keep track of assignments, especially when they're absent, meaning that I can post anything. I can post something to an individual student, I can post something to a group, so that if they're out of the room for any reason, there's no reason for them to fall a step behind, at least in the written work. There is the opportunity as well for me to post enrichment videos on the same subjects if they've missed a class lecture. We sometimes have the ability to do a virtual experiment when they've missed a real lab. Also, it speeds up communication of questions. I don't even know why, but for some reason students are far more likely to post me an Edmodo comment than they are to email me a question. The kids are really used to this kind of thing, leaving comments and commenting on each other's stuff. It starts conversations and dialogues that wouldn't have happened in class between students who usually don't interact a lot in class. So that's been really cool too. The other thing is it's helped me out in assessing understandings in a couple of really useful ways. There's an ability Edmodo has to post quizzes and things that are short, and the kids get immediate feedback, which is really valuable, especially at this age. They really never care so much about a quiz than they do the 10 seconds after they took it. So it's a great way to reach them, to let them know how well they did that week with absorbing the information, or how well their notes are reflecting the class material, which is a great way to use these little short quizzes. They really are independent in that way. And I've used it not so much for the big assessments, but for the small ones. So what it's really helped me to do is to look at assessment data in a different way. It lets me assess more frequently on smaller data points, which really helps me kind of hone my thinking of what happened in the class. I can have an understanding of what they walked away with, and then boom, that evening, even like it can be really fast. I can post a review quiz on Friday from the notes from the week, and before Monday morning I already know that the class is really solid on point A, point B, and point C, but point D, half the class really missed something, and so I know that first thing off Monday morning I need to make sure that I've corrected the mistakes. It's wonderful feedback for me. Another thing it does, it lets me kind of flip a lot of my classroom time. So in order to get this sort of level of assessment data that I have having a weekly quiz, I would be giving up a half an hour every week of my class time of them with science. And instead, by moving that into the homework realm, it's a really easy way for me to reclaim that class time and still have lots of frequent assessments. So it's cool. So it's a flipping tool. And then the coolest part, I think, is the way that it kind of opens up the possibilities for enriching the classroom experience. I have a lot more flexibility to offer both things that are really challenging to the kids who are hungry for the next step, but also lots of extra practice for kids who are feeling unconfident about how they're doing. So it can help support students at either end of the academic spectrum in the class, and help move kids from feeling like they're part of one group to another. It also gives me a place to address the really cool questions and ideas that come up in class that I just don't have time to stop and address, that we don't have time to explore. This happens all the time in chemistry because there's just so many cool, fascinating tangents. And before I would say, well, we could get back to that another time, but it's very hard to find those times where you can deviate from where you're going long enough to give them a satisfactory answer. So what it really does is it says, I'm going to make an Edmodo post about that. So the next time after class is over, I find a video, or I make one, or I find a great article, something that I can link to that answers that question in a fuller or deeper way, so the kids who are really curious get that satisfaction. And we have a place to talk about that. And then it might come back in and feed in class another way. It also gives me a place where I can watch the kids engaging with each other around the subject in really playful ways. They get into these hilarious chemistry wars with each other back and forth with chemistry puns straight out of their notes, which is this great tool for memory, and they're engaging in it in a way that's really fun, and it's lighting them up, and they're enjoying it. They're clearly spending free time on there, and when they don't have to, and it's so exciting. So they'll post jokes, they post videos, they suggest labs to me, some of which are a little unrealistic, but some of them are things that I've actually brought into the classroom of saying, hey, can we do this? This is related to what we were talking about in class. And it was a cool lab, and I'd never seen it before. So it's teaching me a lot, and it's a really fun way for the kids to engage.